Hi guys, this video I will be discussing upon Nagarro first round interview experience. So what all questions has been asked to me and what will be the probable solution for that, those things I will be discussing in this video. So stay tuned till the end. So it will be very much useful for you to crack this Nagarro round 1. Okay, so let me share my screen and explain you what all questions have been asked. So it is for Java developer 6+ years of experience. Okay, so I'm having around 6.9 years of experience, so it will be very much helpful for 5+ years, 4+ years, and around 7 to 8 years as well. Okay, so let me share my screen and explain you what all questions has been asked to me in Nagarro round 1. So let me share. I hope you can see my screen now. So basically we'll start it here. So first question was the project related question. So they may ask you directly like what all projects have you worked upon starting from the initial phase of your career till now, and what is your recent projects, what all tech stacks have you used in your project, and they may tell you to explain your current project. Okay, so you have to explain it thoroughly. You have to explain it properly, like what all tech stacks have you used, what all deployment, if you have done that, you can explain Jenkins built-in pipeline, what all scripts you have written, that also you can do. They may ask you about the queries and all. If you have written, then you also can tell about that. So everything related to project, you may answer that. Okay, they may ask you questions based upon that. Next was this question. So there was like list of integer for array list, and these were the values 1 3 2 4 3 1 2, and this should be the output 4 3 2 1. So what operation needs to be done on this array list so that I will get this output 4 3 2 1? So think on it on once. Okay, give it 5 to 6 seconds, pause this video, think on it, and then see the video. So I hope you have thought on it. So basically what you can do over here is you can do the reverse. Okay, so first of all you need to sort this in a reverse order, and then after sorting you can do the distinct method of stream. Okay, within the stream method, arraylist.stream.distinct. Okay, if you make use of distinct, it will remove all the duplicate numbers. Like it will print 1 3 2 4. That's it. So after that, what will be my next step? My next step is to reverse it. Okay, so we have to print it in descending order. So for that we have to do arraylist.stream.distinct.sorted, and within that we have to write comparator.reverse order. So with the help of which, what will happen, it will print the elements in the reverse order. So it will print 4 3 2 1. So two things will be there here. First thing is you have to remove the duplicates, and second thing is you have to print it in reverse order. I hope you got the idea. Second question is this. So if you are able to see this question, like this A is printed over here, then bad method is being called. So here is the bad method which is throwing me error. Okay, then B is printed, then within catch block C is printed, and then finally D is printed. So what will be my output? If this particular code is being executed, then what will be my output? So pause this video for 5 seconds and try to think on it. Then we will discuss the solution. I hope you have thought on it. So basically here what will happen, A will be printed. It's 100% sure. Bad method, when it is called, here it is throwing me error. So here is the concept. So if there is an error being thrown, it will not be going to catch block. Why it is not going to catch block? Because catch is set up to handle only exceptions. Okay, but it is an error. It's not an exception. So it will not be handled within catch block. And error cannot be handled. Okay, so this should be very much clear with your concepts. Like error cannot be handled, only exceptions can be handled. So error will not go to catch block, and then finally block will be executed. So D will be printed. So output will be A and D. Okay, nothing else. It will not print C. Output will be A and D. That's it. In the next line, like A, then next line D. Okay, I hope you got the clarity. Next question. So this was the next question. Select age, comma, max salary from employee. If I am printing this in the query part in SQL, so what will be my output? Okay, so if I execute this, then think about it. Like what can be the output? I have not written any where clause. I didn't group up anything. I have not written any condition. So what will be my output? Obviously, it will print age and a maximum salary, but that maximum salary will not determine that actually it is the maximum salary or not. Actually, it will print the entire record of employees, and across each employee's age, it will print the maximum salary. That may or may not be the maximum salary. So that will be the vague output, but this only will be the output because you are not putting any condition or you are not writing any subquery on this. Okay, so you are directly writing age comma max salary. You have to basically group by on it, or you can write your subquery so to to filter out only those employees whose age and maximum salary you want to get printed. So this will be the answer for this. So it will basically print all the employees record along with their age and maximum salary, which may or may not be that maximum salary. It may print any salary as max salary within the column. Okay, so that will be the output. Next question is use of default keyword. So here you have to be very much careful. Okay, so this default keyword and default method, both are different things. So default is a keyword which is used within switch statement. Okay, so switch case, if you are writing switch, then you are passing the condition or string or character. Then within that you are writing cases, right? Case 1, case 2, case 3, case 4. Then at last you are writing default. Okay, so if all the cases are not being executed, then at last default keyword will be executed, and then whatever thing you are writing in the default part, default keyword part, that particular line will be executed. Okay, so that is the default keyword. And what is the default method? Default method has come up in Java 8, like the introduction of default and static method. So with the help of which we can write our own concrete method in interface, right? It came in Java 8. So that is the default method. So you can actually override the default method and you can make changes, okay, in your own class. So that is the implementation of default method. So you should be very much clear what is default keyword and what is default method. Okay, going to next question. So this was the next question, how to create the custom exception. Custom exception is very much known to you, right? So for creating our own exception, which is not being defined within Java, for that, what you can do, you can create a separate class for that. Okay, so you can tell like burger not found exception. So you can create a class burger not found exception, and you can throw exception. Okay, in the declaration part, you can throw exception. Then within the definition part, what you can do, you can create a constructor for that exception, and then you can pass the message. Okay, and then you can call super keyword, like super in bracket, you can write the message or E or anything, that message, MSG or message you can write, okay, directly. And in the constructor part, you can pass the message. So what will happen if you are doing like this? From a particular class, let's suppose you want to throw this burger not found exception, then what you can do, you can go to that method. Within that method, you can write a condition, like if this burger is not found, it's like a unique type of burger which has not been found in a particular restaurant. So for that, you can, in the method definition part, you can throw this exception. You can write throw new burger not found exception with a message like this burger is not been found. Okay, so like that, you can, there will be the exception propagation. The exception will propagate from your class to that custom exception class which you have created, and then it will be thrown from that custom exception class. I hope you got the clarity on this. Next question. Next question is put versus patch. It's a very common question. Like I have seen, like in almost all the interview, this question has been asked. Okay, put versus patch. So this is very important question. So put operation is one of the mapping concept. Okay. So there are a lot of HTTP mappings, right? Like get mapping, post mapping, put mapping, delete mapping. Okay, these all types of mappings are present. So out of that, put and patch both are used for update operation. But what's the difference between the two? There is a very subtle difference. Put mapping is used when we have to update all the columns of the records. Okay, if you want to update all the columns of a particular record or all the records, then you can go for put mapping. Patch mapping will be used when you don't want to update all the columns of that records. Okay, but you want to update only few, like 1, 2, 3 or few selected columns of that record. For that purpose, you have to make use of patch mapping. Okay, so it's very important. Next question. This is very important. Okay, so if you can see over here, path param and query param. So there are a lot of params available, like request param, query param, path param. Okay, there are a lot of params available. So you should be very much clear on this, what these params mean. So path param, what is a path param? So it is similar to path variable. So basically, if you are passing over here certain ID which has been passed from the postman or from the request, so this ID is dynamic in nature. Till users, it's static, it will be same. But here, if you see user ID, that is dynamic, like it can be 101, 102, 103 based upon the user ID. This will be passed as a path param, okay, in the controller, and then it will check in database whether user ID is present or not. So there you can write your logic. If user ID is present, then you can fetch the data and show it in the JSON format in the console, or else you can throw the message like user ID not present. This is path param. Query param is in the form of key value pairs. So here you can see I've written search, after that question mark. So question mark is states like here is one query available for you, query in the form of key value pair. So here you can see q equal to query and page equal to 1. So there are two queries available over here. First query in the form of key value pair is I need query, q equal to query. Okay, this is q is key and query is the value. And one more parameter is there, one more query parameter is there, page equal to 1. I want first page details. Okay, so that also has been passed as a parameter. So this is a part of query parameter, which is used for searching process. Basically, I don't want all the data. I want the selected, searched, sorted data. Okay, I want just selected data. So for that purpose, we are making use of query param. So this should be very much clear for you. Okay. So going to next question, JsonIgnore. Okay, what is JsonIgnore? So two things we have to consider over here. So the first thing is @transient and second thing is @JsonIgnore. Both should be very much clear to you. So @transient, basically what happens if you are putting @transient over any field, so it will not allow the serialization process to happen for that particular field, and then that particular field will not be eligible for persisting into the database. That is for @transient. And @JsonIgnore, what will happen if you are putting it over a field, then that particular field or multiple set of fields, if you are writing, then that particular fields will not be eligible to show into the output console. Okay, so output JSON format, whatever response has been set it up there, those fields, the data will not be shown. Okay, it's like a ignoring part. So whatever data is coming over there, you can ignore. You are advising the request or the response, like you don't want to print this data in the output console. So that is the power of JsonIgnore. It will ignore that particular field. Okay, so this is very important thing. And one more homework I'm giving it for you. Like, let's suppose I want to ignore more than 10 fields or 20 fields or 30 fields. What will you do in that scenario? Will you be writing JsonIgnore over all the fields? No, right? So here you have to make use of externalization process, where you have to override two methods. So that is the homework for you to find it out, like how can we do that? Next question. Controller versus REST controller. So this is a very common question, right? Controller actually it binds the request to the web definition. Whatever web method is, web request is coming, okay, it binds it with the request definition. So that is the controller part. So it is written over the class, but it doesn't have @response body. So if you are writing only @controller, then for a particular mapping over that, you have to write @response body as well. Okay, but if you are writing @REST controller, it contains response body. So you don't have to explicitly define like @response body over the mapping method. So this is important. Next question. Yeah. So this was my next question. How are you providing role-based access? Okay. How are you providing role-based access? Like this is admin role. This person is having user role. So how are you giving that access? So basically you have to make use of this annotation @enable web security annotation. Okay. And then you are creating one security config class. And then you are extending web security configure adapter. Okay. And then within that, you are overriding the configure method. You are passing HTTP security. Then you are throwing the exception. Then these parameters you have to pass, like http.authorizeRequest.AntMatchers public. This is the parameter, and then permit all. So if you are doing permit all, it will allow everybody to access the data. It will not give you, it will not set a particular role. But if you are passing AntMatcher with admin, then it will specify that only admin user can access this, no any other person. Okay, only user with an admin role can access this endpoint. Then I am passing has role user. It will allow access to users only with user role. Okay, no, not anybody else. Then at the end, we are writing .authenticated. So it requires authentication for any other type of request or any other person who is trying to authenticate. So it requires authentication, specific authentication for that. And then .form login. So it will enable the form based authentication. Okay. And then if you are writing .logout, so it will automatically get logout after a particular session has expired. So like this, basically you can provide the role based access. So it is basically a part of Spring security. Okay, so these all things should be very much clear to us. What all annotations we have to use, how we can allow, what exact lines you have to write for allowing particular role for a person, like user role, admin role, or any other role. So basically you have to make use of AntMatcher, then has role method you have to use. So this is important. Okay, next question. Authentication versus authorization. This is like, you have to just mug it up. Like this question will be asked in almost every interview. Okay, so in authentication, what happens? So authentication, there are two types, like JWT authentication, then OAuth authentication is there. So basically what happens in this, So there will be like a public access key, public access token key which gets generated. So you are going for login purpose. Like whenever you are going for login purpose, at that point of time, a public token has already been generated. So getting the data, it will go to authentication server. Okay. So authentication server will generate a particular token key. So whatever token key has been generated by the authentication server, it will go as a content header. Okay. It will go as a content header, and it will go into API gateway. Okay, so API gateway can be Mule or any other API gateway. This is basically for security purpose. Okay, for authentication purpose it is used. In API gateway, actually it validates the signature. Okay, whatever signature is there in the JSON, so it will validate that particular person's request signature. Then what will happen? It will, after validating, and it will compare that the particular user is the same user who has been trying to authenticate during the login process. So it will try to check the public access token key. Like it will check that whether public access token key is same as what has been generated by the authentication server. If those keys matches, then it will go to a front-end controller where it will allow to go to a specific endpoints where it has been pointed to. Let's suppose there are 20 endpoints. So there will be front-end controller or dispatcher servlet where the endpoint will go, and it will search it out like which endpoint you want to go. So it will direct to the third or fourth endpoint. So it will be going over there. So like that, this authentication is happening. And for authorization, what will happen? So authorization is basically you are authorized, you are authenticated to see few websites, but you are not authorized to see some other which is particular to that company's websites. You are not authorized to see that. So basically higher authority access is required for authorizing that. So that is the authorization. So you have access to few things, but you are not having access to few other things as well. So that is actually the authorization part. So next question is this: unique key versus composite key. So what's the difference between the two? So unique key means first you have to understand the difference between unique key and primary key. Okay, so primary key will not have any null key. Okay, no record should be null. It is a combination of unique and not null, and unique is a combination of unique and null. Okay, so unique, if you are mentioning in a particular DB, okay, so here you can mention like this: create table in primary key, email varchar unique. So if you are passing it as unique, then you are allowing email column to have the null data. So it can have multiple records with null field. Okay, that is allowed over here. But if you are making use of composite key, then it should not have null key. It should not have null key. That is very important. Okay. And composite key is a key where only one particular column is not sufficient to specify the uniqueness of that particular table. So let's suppose there is a table where there are multiple IDs like employee ID, then department ID, then college ID. There are a lot of things, a lot of IDs are present. So if you are considering only one ID, then that is not uniquely defining that particular table. So if you are selecting with that ID, you can see like multiple records are coming. One record is not coming. Then how will you uniquely identify the specific record? For that, we need to make multiple columns as a combination primary key. Okay. So if you are combining multiple records and making it as a primary key, then that will be a composite key, and that should be not null. The combination of those keys should be unique and not null. Okay. None of the records should be null. That is very important for composite key. So like this, we have to define for composite key: primary key, order ID, comma, product ID, comma, any number of IDs you can add it over here. Okay. And for unique key, you just have to add this keyword unique. So it will become, email will become unique. Okay. I hope you got the clarity on this. Next question is this: mockito versus inject mock. So what all things have you used within this? So these things will be asked with regards to JUnit. Okay, so you should have working experience and you should have some knowledge on JUnit, because companies are asking as this as well. So mockito, what is this? It's basically a framework with the help of which you are testing your methods. Okay, what all lines you have written is covered or not, the expected and actual value is coming same or not. Okay, are you covering all lines? Are you covering all validations? Are you covering all the conditions, okay, coming into your business logic? Everything we have to check it with mockito. So these questions can be asked like, have you made use of mockito or power mockito? Because mocking static methods, those things will come under power mockito. But for void, you can make use of do nothing.when. With the help of this, you can mock void methods. Okay. Then they can ask you what's the difference between inject mocks and mock. So inject mocks is basically used to instantiate a particular class. Okay. And after instantiation, you basically call the method and then you are passing the mock bean data over there. So it is basically used with service layers. Okay. So let's suppose you want to call the method of the service layer, service class. So that service class will have to become inject mock. Okay. At that inject mocks. And then within that class, you can make repository as a mock. Okay. And then you can write when repository dot method find by something dot then return the mock data. So like that, you can define it. So basically mock is just for mocking a particular field, and inject mocks actually create the instance of that particular class and then mock the data. Okay. So that's the difference between the two. Next question is this. Yeah. So what's verify in Mockito? This is very important. So verify actually checks the object, it takes the object and it checks whether how many times that particular method has been executed. So if you are writing any method in a class, and then we have to check like at least these many times this method should be called for proper execution of business logic. So for that purpose, you can use this verify method. So it will check that particular method is how many times it has called. So there are multiple methods present within verify. So there can be like at least, at most. Okay. So at most 3, at most 4, at least. Okay. So these methods you can use of, and then you can tell directly like this many times it has been called, and you can verify it with the help of this method. So verify is basically for verifying purpose. Okay. The English meaning is literally same. So how many times this method has been called, you can check that. Okay. So this is the verify thing. Next comes map versus flat map. So this is very simple. I think map is basically for mapping. Let's suppose you want to double each and every input numbers coming. Okay. So let's suppose 1, 2, 3, 4. And after mapping, it will be like 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6, 8 like that. Okay. So you have to double each and every element. So basically you're not filtering, you are mapping each and every element so that number of data, number of inputs is equal to number of outputs. You are not reducing the output. That means it is a mapping. In filter, actually output may get reduced, but in case of map, number of inputs should be equal to number of output, but the value of that output data gets modified in case of maps. But in case of flat map, what will happen? There can be like employee can have list of departments. Okay. And it can have multiple departments like EMP1, like age something, salary something. Then within departments, within it's a form of list like DPT1, DPT2, like that it's printed, but you want to flatten it. So how it will be printed? Like EMP1, salary 1, DPT1, EMP1, salary 1, DPT2. So you are just basically flattening it. So that is basically flattening map. So with the help of simple example, I will show you how flat map and map is being explained. So here you can see this basic example. So if you see over here, first let me show you map part. So here you can see in the map part, here we are passing Arrays.asList. So here I'm streaming on these numbers, then mapping by multiplying each element by 2, and then we are collecting. So basically it multiplies each and every element by 2. So this is basically map part. Then coming to flat map. Flat map, it's passing 2 strings, hello and world. Okay. So actually we are flattening it in such a way that it will contain only one array data, which will contain set of characters like this. Okay. Here you can see there's a set of characters over here which separated by comma, and 2 strings has been flattened to set of characters. So you can write it using stream.flatMap, word.chars.map to object. Okay, because chars gets converted to chars stream. Okay, and then you are using mapping so that it maps to a particular object, and you are using chars C. You are converting into character. If you are not typecast to char, then it will print the ASCII value. Okay, so if you don't want to print the ASCII value, if you want to get the pure characters, then you have to typecast it with char. Then it will print the actual characters like HEL. If you are not typecasting with char, then it will print the ASCII value for H, ASCII value for E. So we'll not get it like what is this ASCII value. Okay. Then you are collecting the data and printing it. That is the simple thing. Okay. It's very much simple to understand. You can just practice it by your own. You will get the clarity on this. Next question comes this. What's the use of join column? Okay. So join column is being used with @ 1 to 1, 1 to many to one mappings you can make use of. So here actually it references other columns primary key as a foreign key constraint to your current table. Okay. So let's suppose employee has a department. Okay. So department table has a column called department. Department column has a table called ID. Okay, and within the employee class, you are creating department. Okay, department field. So here you are writing at the join column name equal to department ID. So what it signifies? It basically signifies like this department is the foreign key constraint. This department ID is the foreign key constraint to the primary key of that particular department table. So it helps to join two tables on the basis of this department ID. So there should be one joining column, right? So what that column based on which two tables will be joined? This is the department ID. So based on this department ID, you can basically join two tables data. So this is the sample example how you can write it down. So you can pause this video and you can go through this step by step and you can implement it as a notes for yourself. Okay. Next question that was asked to me was this: how to select only selected columns in a table. Let's suppose there is a requirement for you, like in a JPA query, you want to print selected column data. I don't want all the columns data. I want only out of 20 columns, I want only 3 or 5 column data of that table. What will you do? How will you proceed with writing your JPA query? I don't want native query. I want Hibernate query for that. Then how will you proceed? Just think for a while. So basically here what you can do, you can create one DTO class, and that DTO class will have the same field name which is there with the entity class. The field name should be same so that it will be mapping. Okay, so entity class, you know, right? It will have the data for DB record, DB table fields data. It will be mapping with that. Okay, and at the rate, and for DTO actually it will map the data for the entity layer. So after creating the DTO layer, within that JPA query, where you can write your query in such a way, right? At that query, within that you can write select new fully qualified class name for that DTO, like com.something.java dot that DTO. Then within that you can pass that fields. Like let's suppose I want ID name age, so you can pass ID name age from that table. Okay, and then you can join or you can do some other operation, but this is the way to select only particular few columns from that table, not all the columns. So this is very important question. It's like if you have implemented this at your project, then only you can answer it very particularly. So this is very important for your project purpose as well. So next question. So this was the last question actually. So have you worked upon Docker, Kubernetes? What are the use cases where you have worked? So basically, I have not particularly worked because there was separate DevOps team for that Kubernetes and Docker part. So few Docker instances about some theory part I have explained, some commands you can explain. And for Kubernetes, I have explained like I have gone through the pods for several instances of microservices. There are certain sets of pods available for those instances, and then we can go into that pods. We can give the proper configuration for that, and then we can see the logs into that. Okay, we can trace the logs in the particular pods of that microservice, and then we can identify and trace the issue, where exactly those issues are coming, what is the exact issue. And for debugging purpose and removal of issue purpose, we have used Kubernetes. So these all things I have explained. So this was my round 1 of Nagarro. So I hope you like the content. So then if you like the content, please like, share and subscribe so that I will create this type of contents again and again for you. So I hope you've liked the content. So we'll see you in the next video. Till then, it's Devjit Roy signing off. Bye bye.